Hey, this is Joe from SoFly, and in this video, we are going to go over importing advanced fields from Metabox using WP All Import. So to get started, we'll go down here to All Import and select New Import. Then I'm going to upload a file, and we'll select Advanced Fields. Okay, and then I have a custom post type called Metabox CPT that I set up for this demo. We'll go ahead and select it from the pull down. Now, this is just a quick demo showing you each of the Metabox advanced fields. We have other videos that go into more depth into WP All Import, creating imports for more realistic sites, right? But in this video, we just want to show you the actual individual fields and discuss each one of them individually. And in those other videos, you'll get an overview of how these options work up here, like upload a file versus download a file and use existing file, new items versus existing items imports, etc. So if you're interested in that, definitely check out our YouTube channel, check out our documentation. We have a lot of content that covers these subjects in more detail. All right, so for us, we're going to continue to step 2 and then to step 3. And then very quickly, we'll just drag in our title. All right, and let's go down here to the Metabox add-on section. Choose this field group, and you can see here, these are all of the Metabox advanced fields that I have already set up. So let's check it out on the Metabox backend. So you can see here, here's all the fields, and I just set them up with some pretty basic settings, just the defaults. And then this is what that will look like in this manually added post. This is what it looks like on the WordPress backend. All right, so let's go back over to WP All Import. Let's check this out. All right, so first up we have Autocomplete. Now this is a simple plain text field with autocomplete features. So on the back end, what that looks like is like this. Let me delete these so we can go. So I've set, there's 3 fields that I've added to this. There's 3 options I've added to this field. And then as you type them on the back end, you can select them, right? And then we can see here in my file. So post 1 has no value for the first autocomplete. And then here we have 2, right? So my options are I can select the value for all records. So, you know, if I did this right here and ran the import, then all of the posts that I get, all 100 posts that are imported are going to have autocomplete 1 and autocomplete 3 selected. Or what I can do is I can set with XPath, right? And that's what I want to do because each one of these posts in my import file has different values, right? This one has autocomplete 1 and 2 selected. Post 1 has nothing selected. This one over here just has autocomplete 2. So let's go ahead and drag that in. Now you'll notice, so I have autocomplete _2 for this field here in my import file. And that lines up perfectly with the values that I've selected and set up in Metabox. That might not be the case for you, right? And you might be thinking, oh, well, I need to just modify my import file then. Not the case. With WP All Import, we don't care what your import file looks like. We don't care how it's set up. So no matter what the data looks like in here, we can map it here, right? So no matter what the key values are for the autocomplete field, and no matter what the data is over here, we can make a match. It just, like how different they are is just gonna determine what we have to do to get it there. Now, check out our documentation, check out our YouTube channel. We have some content that covers how to use PHP functions, which is obviously the most powerful way to map your data, but there's some other methods. If you can't find anything in the documentation that helps you, feel free to send a message to our support team and we will definitely get you sorted out, okay? So don't look at this and think, oh, well, you know, this example data over here perfectly matches the Metabox stuff, so I need to modify my data. Not the case. Again, WP All Import does not care what your file looks like. You can import any file in any structure into any set of Metabox fields. So that is our autocomplete field sorted. Next up, we have background. Now, background is a fairly complicated Metabox field, and it actually is a collection of different fields, right? So this is how it looks like on the WordPress backend. You select a color, you select a background image, and then you have settings over here to determine how that image is displayed on your site in your background image. So let's go back over here. We've split it all up. It looks pretty similar to how it is in Metabox. And I'm just going to drag over my data, right? So for background color, we just want a hex code for the color. Background image, we just want a URL to the image, and it can be an image hosted on your site, hosted elsewhere, doesn't really matter. And then here we have the position settings. So for repeat, these are the possible values. And then here you can see for the position, we have to express the different position values in terms of a percentage, right? So you can see here in my file, I have all of the percentages lined up here, like 50-50, 0-50, etc. And again, if your data doesn't look like this, not a problem. You just have to tell WPL import what to do with it, how you should process it, right? And then for attachment, scroll, fixed, local, initial, or inherit. We have that over here. And then size is going to be auto, cover, contain, initial, inherit, or any combination of width and height values, right? So here I have cover, initial, 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 and then here we have height and width. Okay, so let's drag these all over and get this set up. So I have my background image sorted. Let's do background repeat, background position, attachment, and size. All right, next up we have color. The exact same as the background color. We just want to have a hex color in there. Easy. The hex code, the color preceded with a hashtag, right? So we have the hashtag right in there. All right, and then the date. Now this is interesting. So for date, time, and time fields, we have time down here at the bottom. We'll get to that later. But for these date time fields, anything related to date or time, you can use anything. And as long as it's processable or supported by PHP's str to time function, it'll work. Now, you don't need to know anything about str to time. All you need to know is if you could look at a date as a human being, and if it makes sense to you, it'll probably make sense to str to time. So you can see here, I have this format here. I have Zulu time over here, ISO 8601 standard. You could use Unix timestamps. You can use anything, and PHP will just kind of figure it out. Okay, so let's drag in my date, and then let's drag in my date time. And if I wanted to, what I could do is I could also just select it here from this nice little pull down, or I can hard code it, right? So I could just say, I could just write like Jan 24, 1986, if I wanted to. But then, if I did this, all of my posts are going to have this date, right? So now I want it to be dynamic. So I'm going to drag in this date over here. Now, again, remember, all of these fields in WPL import, you can modify them with PHP. So this date, I could pass this into a PHP function and modify it in some way, right? Add a month, subtract an hour, whatever I need to do, I can do it with PHP. Out of scope for this video, check out our documentation, our YouTube channel. We have tons of videos on how to pass data in and out of functions. We have a ton of code snippets in our documentation to get you started if you need to do something. Or, you can just use ChatGPT to figure it out. All right, next up we have field set text. So the way field set text works is this field can contain a set of text inputs, right? So it's basically like a normal text field, but there's multiple of them, right? So here I have here field set text 1 is an airport code, and then here this is a different type of airport code over there, right? So just two different little text fields. We can put those in for the two different values that I've set in metabox. Okay, this over here, this is a hidden field. It's, again, just another standard text field. So I'm just going to put this text that I have here for my file in there. Pretty straightforward. And then next we have image select fields. So these work similar to the auto select or to the autocomplete fields that we have set up over here, right? Where on the back end, you just select image 1, image 2, or image 3, right? So you just select which image, and then that's the data that you have for that meta value in your post. Right? So again, I can just select the value for all records. If I run it like this, every post is going to get image 2, right? But I have dynamic data. And this dynamic data, again, this here matches the labels that I've set for this field, for those images in metabox. So I can just drag it in. And again, if you need to modify that, if your data here doesn't match the labels over here and you can't change the labels, then you can use PHP or some other methods to map that data. Check out our documentation, check out our YouTube channel, send a message to our support team. We'll help you out. All right, next up we have key value. So this is a little bit interesting. So with key values, you go over here and we can add more values, right? So we have key, we have a value, key, value. We can just add as many as we want, and then these get saved. This is more like traditional custom field in WordPress, right? Just key value, and you can just have an arbitrary number of them. So the way we handle this, there's a few different ways in WP all import. And this user interface here for repeaters, we have separate documentation that goes over into the like variable CSV, variable XML mode in a little bit more detail. And you would use this, you know, here, if you look at my data, I just have key value 1 or key 1, value 1, key 2, value 2. If these were combined in one field, then you'd have to use repeaters, right? Totally possible, not that hard to do, but separate video, separate documentation for that. So I'm just going to use fixed mode here. So I'm going to drag in key 1, and then I'm going to drag in key 2, right? And, sorry, key 1, value 1. Then I'm going to add another one because right now I have 2 separate pairs, key 2 and value 2. Okay. Now, if you look over here, what are these actual things? So this is an airport. That's the airport code. This is a medication, and that is the generic name for the medication. Look back and you can see. So, you know, we can verify that these were imported correctly just by looking at these after the import is complete. Okay. Next up, we have oEmbeds. oEmbeds are very cool. So the way an oEmbed works is an oEmbed is you basically put a URL, and then WordPress has a list of whitelisted URLs. So you can put any of these, like any URL from these services into that oEmbed field, and then it's going to be automatically, it's going to download the card from the site, you know, like when you send somebody a tweet in Messenger or something like that, and you see the little tweet preview. So I have some oEmbeds over here, like, you know, I just put a link to a TED Talk. Then we have another kind of random selection, maybe YouTube video, etc. So those, we just have to import the URL, and then the embeds are going to be added. And then if you have, you know, so you want to oEmbed something that is from a different provider, you can check out the WordPress documentation. You can actually add more oEmbeds in there if you want, and then determine how they get imported or how they get displayed in WordPress. Okay, so next up we have a password field. Again, this is just a standard text field. The only difference is on the back end, when we go over here, it's going to be hidden. Okay. And then, so yeah, we just drag that in, and then select advanced. So the way select advanced works, this is a field that creates a select dropdown using the select to library. So it's similar to the other select fields that we have. And it just looks like this, right? So it has a little search bar up at the top. And then we just have, you know, labels and slugs for each one of these options that we set up in metabox. And then we just need to match them in WPL import. And just like everything else, we can select the value for all records. Here, if we do this, everything is going to have select to. However, we're going to use set with XPath, and then it's over here, select advanced, and there we go, right? The slider field, so this is just a number, right? So we just import a number over here, and then on the back end, it just looks like this, right? And there's some options in metabox for how this works. So that's pretty much it. Switch, again, select value for all records, on, off, set with XPath. For set with XPath, the way this works is you have 1 for on and 0 for off, right? So whatever the data is here, you just need to map it to those values, and then it'll work. So I'll drag in my field over here, and I just have 1s and 0s there for my data. Okay, then we have text list. So text list, this is just a list field with a bunch of text inputs, right? So I just have 2 that I'll drag those in here. These are the same as pretty much every other text field in every other simple text field that's in metabox. Just standard text fields, you know. You can process this data with PHP. You can add like static text like that. Whatever you need to do, you can just do it like that. All right, and then lastly, we have time over here. So time, I'll drag that in. We have sliders if you want to select the value for all records, right? So if I did this, it's going to be 2:34 p.m. for all my posts, but I don't want to do that. I want to drag it in. So we'll go ahead, we'll delete that. And there we go. So that's going to import the time for this post. Then the last one we have down here is the WYSIWYG text area field. So with this field, you can have, it's just rich text, right? And it's just HTML. So if you want, you can import basically HTML over here. This is the visual editor in the WordPress backend, how Metabox displays it. And this is just a standard WordPress text area field, and it just basically just renders HTML. So here I have some HTML that I've created with an image and some text, and I'll drag that in. Okay, so that's all my fields. So I'm going to go ahead and run this import, and then let's see how it looks. So on this page, we just need to select auto detect for a unique identifier. Here we have some settings for what happens when we rerun this import later. And then here we have our scheduling options, right? Now we have other videos that cover all of this in a lot more depth, right? Videos on rerunning the import, video on importing to existing items on a recurring basis when you're downloading the file from somewhere else, updating stock and prices for WooCommerce products, literally everything. Check out our documentation, check out our YouTube channel if you're interested in these. And then scheduling, right? So if we need to run this import on a schedule, let's say I'm importing a file from an external provider. That file gets updated on an ongoing basis, and I want to run that import every hour, every day, every week, every month, whatever I need. These settings in here let you do that. And then every time that import runs, it'll download a copy of the file and update your site depending on these settings over here. So once again, check out our YouTube channel, check out our documentation. We have videos and content that goes into that in much more detail. For us, we're just going to continue, run this import, and then when it's done, we'll check out the WordPress backend. And that took approximately 3 seconds for 100 posts. So now let's go over here. Let's check out all the posts we just imported. I'll sort these by date to get them in order. You can see here, this is the manually added post that I created. And then these are all the posts that we just imported. So let's take a look at a selection of these on the back end and just verify that our data came in correctly. Okay, so autocomplete, post 1, this was blank. We have our color in here. These are all set up correctly. Image 2 selected. This data came in. We have our oEmbed coming in, password, and if we pop this up, it's correctly rendering the HTML. Check out this guy. Autocomplete 1 is selected, right? We have all of this coming in okay. Image select is working. Got an oEmbed, and there we go. So you can see here, same thing, more embeds. All of our data is coming in okay. So that is all it takes to import the Metabox advanced fields using WPL import. This is just a quick run through on a very basic site that just has examples for each of these fields so you can see how they work. We have other videos for Metabox imports and Metabox exports that use more real-world examples, but because they're real-world examples, they don't use all of the fields available. So if you're interested in that, if you want to learn more about WPL import and how it works with Metabox, check out our YouTube channel, check out our documentation. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.